Hey everyone, hello. Welcome to the Emotional Entrepreneur. It is Tuesday. Welcome. Hello, Jen. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm so happy to be here with you and everybody out there. Hello. I'm just going to mess with my LinkedIn really quickly, get that up and see who's on here with us. If you've been on here before, please invite your friends because, you just never know who needs to hear what you and I and Jen have to say. We get some messages after the show and they're really just so impactful and so meaningful. I got one email this last week that was just like an incredible page long. And it was, I was going to tell you, and they identified like all these different things we were talking about and how it just really resonated with them. And so it was really nice. I got that last night. And so I was just like, oh, well, isn't that nice? And then they put a comment on LinkedIn and she said, wow, this really hit home. So, and, this person worked in the film industry and worked her way out of the film industry. It was just, her whole story was amazing. And then how some of this stuff that we talked about last week really related to her story. So you never know who's going to need to hear this. Or, hey there, Mike. So, it might be during the show, it might be after the show, but this week we're going to be talking about the entrepreneur wardrobe. How do you wear many hats with ease? What does that look like for you? I know that people have talked about this in the past. What does it mean to wear many hats, right? And we've all done it. But sometimes it feels a little overwhelming and it can feel very emotional at times. So we're going to talk about some ways to understand what's happening when we're wearing those many hats, how to maybe alleviate or minimize the angst that it might cause, or I would even say the guilt for some people.
Oh, that's a good emotion to identify. Yeah.
Oh, right. The guilt. And we're going to get into this. Jen, do you want to say anything regarding this before we just jump in?
Nope, jump in.
Okay. So, as I was thinking about, this whole topic and wearing many hats with ease, I thought about my own journey. Like, how did we do it? How did I do it? And, it really started out young. Going to high school, working at 15, I took the bus. I actually took two buses. It's kind of like, I walked in the snow for a mile, but
5 miles up a hill.
Right, with no shoes. And so it's like when I was going to school, I was out of district and going to a private school, Catholic school, for the first 4 years, like 5th through 8th. And I wasn't in district, so I ended up having to take, two buses, get up at 5 o'clock, 5:15, get on the bus at 6:15 and get to school by 7:30, right? And then 2 buses home. And then when I got old enough, it was that and put work into the mix, right? And then get home, do homework. So how do we do it? How, even from that early age, and then, college came around, working 30 hours, 17 units, sorority president. How did we juggle? And then we get into adulthood, and out of college, not that it's not adulthood. And then we get into paying bills, having kids, doing our job, running a business. And how do you take a breather in between it all? How does it not become overwhelming? How do we perceive it? How do we look at it? How do we function through all of that? And sometimes that means just stopping.
Right.
It means stopping. Sometimes it means stopping and being quiet, quieting your mind, quieting that spirit for a minute so we can just take a breather and look at what's going on in our lives, right? And I think just that first step of stopping, just to kind of get a picture of what's happening. And we can do some very literal things and can very what's the word that I'm looking for? Foundational stuff like, stop, start journaling, listing what we have to do, what our responsibilities are, those kinds of things. And when we do stop, there are some points of reflection that we can kind of hit on. Like, how did this all begin? Where did this feel like it became out of control? Or where did it start to spiral for me, both emotionally, maybe physically, even where it's taking a toll on your body, and maybe logically, right? And so I think that first step of just stopping, taking a breath to recalibrate is a good starting point.
Right.
And what I want to say to that and kind of piggyback, and I'll turn this over to you because there are some other things that I want to mention regarding micro learning, disconnecting, these kinds of things. And I don't mean disassociate, I mean just kind of being able to disconnect. Is as you are recalibrating and stopping, remember this is also for your wellness. So, Jen.
Yeah, I think a lot of times this is actually very simple. Because we're humans, we complicate things, and I think alongside with disconnecting, I think one of the easiest things and simple, I should say, not easy, because some people cannot do this easily, is literally learning how to say no.
Yeah.
Learning how to say no. Like, why do we keep saying yes to every invitation, every party, every hangout, every coffee invitation, every project, every collaboration, every summit, every lie? Like, if you keep saying yes to everything, I mean, you have to stop and think, we're the ones that's adding this to the plate.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing a lot of the frenzy. And so when you start to learn how to practice saying no, and also not feeling guilty about saying no, because that's you saying yes to you. We have talked about this many times in different episodes, but it's definitely worth repeating, especially if you're still feeling this way. And I think oftentimes we just keep saying yes to so many things. I'll say no to going to certain family parties, because I and it doesn't have to be because I'm tired.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like sometimes we have this guilt because we feel like, well, I have to go. Well, I have to be there. Do you really? I mean, I guess I get it. Some things, of course, it depends on the scenario, but I think sometimes we think that we have to be everything and everywhere and all the time. And I don't agree with that. That's my personal thing. I don't agree with that. Like, if I don't even have to be busy. If I don't want to go, I'm not going to go, because I just don't want to feel like I have to say yes to everything. I could be wanting to choose, like, you know what? I just want to chill today. I just want to be at home, or whatever the case. I could, like, not be working. I don't feel like it has to be this excuse, like, well, I have work to do. And then that's the only, and that's the only time it's going to be okay to not show up, and I remember when I hear people say, like, the way that you train people, I forget how this goes, but it's like the way people will treat you, the way that you train them to teach you, or
Yeah.
not the way that you train them to treat you. And so it's like, if we're always saying yes, and then inside we're like suffering because, like, gosh, I'm tired, I really want to show up. And then because I hear this a lot. I hear a lot of people say these things like, oh gosh, but I have to be there, but I'm so tired, and I haven't done this, and I haven't worked on my book, and I'm just like, then why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? It's just like, it's this thing where it's just like, okay, stop. Like you said, Summer, just stop.
Yeah.
And I think we have to just assess what is going on here. what do I need to start taking off my plate? Like, I mean, start with the activities. If there's things that you like, especially as an entrepreneur, I get it. We're talking about wearing many hats. You're going to be the janitor of if you have a small office, or you clean your own house if you work at home. You have to be accounts payable, accounts receivable. You are the HR. You are the marketing. You are the sales force.
The graphic designer in some cases.
You're the graphic designer. You're everything, right? You're the videographer and the editor. So the copywriter. I get it. And so there are going to be things that you might say at this stage where you haven't monetized enough that you can outsource that, or you can hire someone. I get that, been there. However, then let's attack the other side. Stop putting stuff on your plate that you should be saying no to. If you cannot take it off from this end, stop putting more. It's almost like a conveyor belt that just keeps piling up at the end, where you have to stop saying yes, because if you can't eliminate it over here and pay somebody to take it off your plate, you can't outsource it, design or sales or whatever, then stop adding more, because it's not going to change if this doesn't get eliminated and this keeps piling on. That is why we're staying in this state of frenzy, and then we're going to feel overworked and tired, and then we're not able to focus on the things that really, really require our attention and being present. And sometimes that's not your business. Unfortunately, sometimes that could be your own family, your own kids, your husband, your wife, your spouse, and that is even more detrimental. So there you go.
I love it. Everything you had to say. So I'm going to read some of these comments because that's what the show is about. It's our opinions, those opinions out there. So Black Calyx Books, Viviana, she said, all of my vacations look like a Corona commercial, cell phone in the ocean and a sunset. And then Mike's, and she goes, it's awesome to support your friends, but at some point you have to step back and focus on yourself and your own tasks. And then Mike says, I schedule meetings with myself. When people say, can you, I say, I can't, I have a meeting. And it's true. I am in a meeting with myself. I love that.
Right.
Having
I love it.
And I do time blocking for myself too, because it's either for tasks that I need to do or just taking a time out every now and again, because I'm going to take this a step back. I'm going to go back into something else, because this, we're talking about the emotional entrepreneur, and I want to tap into something here. It does get emotional, and that's why we start feeling emotionally drained. We start feeling exhausted. Our bodies, our brains, our spirits, right? When we start piling. And it's not just the piling, but guess what? It's piling things on you emotionally. Why? Because we have been taught to say yes. We have been conditioned to say yes. When I was growing up and I was working, you just didn't say no to your boss. You didn't want to let them down. And it wasn't just the personal thing. It was, I want to look good. I want them to know that I'm a valued employee. I want to feel valued. I want them to know I'm valuable to them. When I was coming up the ranks as a military spouse, even, we were given a book, and I one of these days I'm going to have to bring it on the show. It's called Roses and Thorns.
Oh, interesting title.
Oh, very interesting. I really want to put this on pause because I want to go get the book, but it's got a rose on it, and it is a book which it tells you what to do, what to get involved in, how to dress, your man, like the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was expected of me, or that was expected of me, or I had to do things that way. They were conditioning me as a military spouse. So not only did that come from that culture, but it also came from parents, caregivers, and there came guilt with that, or there was a responsibility to do that. There's certain spouses in the military, when your spouse goes to certain schools, whether it is a higher ranking, enlisted school or an officer school, where they have classes for wives. So, and some of them are very educational, some of them are, informational. But again, It's a microculture. And from different cultures or even different families, they impose certain ideas or beliefs. So we grow up thinking these things and we attach something or value to them. And so that's why, too, when we begin to start changing how we construct or how we view our lives, because it is your life, people begin to push back. Why aren't you here? Why aren't you saying yes to these things? What's going on? Are you okay? Then they start, I really love that comment. Are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. I'm beginning to take care of myself. And I think that sometimes for people, it's jolting because when you do, whether it is a spouse, a parent, a family member, a culture, a microculture, children, when you ask them to do something and you say, no, I'm not going to do that, you feel guilt or you feel like you should be there for everybody at all times. Is that even possible? No, but then you harbor or hold on to the guilt or maybe even like, oh, the shame of not doing it. I'm not a good enough parent. I'm not a good enough worker. I'm not a good enough peer. I'm not a good enough coworker. So these messages. So tap into that and understand where these things are coming from. Because I think a lot of times when those things are unresolved, you continue down the same pattern of behavior. And so we can tell you all of these different things to do and how to change them. But if you're not really tapping into why are you holding on to this and what is this going to impact now or in the future if you continue to hold on to this, or if you start releasing some of this guilt and shame and exhaustion and start taking care of yourself, yeah, you're going to have a little pushback. But guess what? At the end of the day, you're going to feel a lot better because you reclaimed your life and said, I'm doing it my way. And it doesn't mean that you're selfish. It means that you're taking care of yourself because, again, it goes back to that whole example of if your glass is empty, how much do you really have to give back? Right? Whether it's emotional emptiness or if it's physical or if it's spiritual or if it's any of that. So how much do you have to give before your body, because your body will and your mind will say, it's time to stop.
Right.
In one way or another, that your body and mind will say, well, we're going to put the reins on. If you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I'll give you an example. So this last year, I know Jen and I are go getters, but Jen also takes some really great time within her day to take care of herself. She carves out the morning time. And I know that if Jen doesn't have her mornings, like, I'm a little worried about her. Like, these are important times for her. Her morning is, and for me, it's like, I'll try and find the time. But I think, this last year it was, okay, if you're not going to find the time, you're running down the stairs so fast, you break a toe. Uh-oh. Wow. Or if you're walking and you're staying up late and you don't realize your foot's asleep, oh, you break your foot. The universe is trying to say, Summer, slow down. Summer, slow down. And, that's something that I had to tap into is slow down, take a breather. You have to juggle these things, and it's okay to juggle certain things. Make a schedule, make a plan, and figure it out. And there's where the tips come in, and we'll get to the tips. But I want to, before I, turn this over to Jen, I want to read some of the stuff here that has been said. So Bibiana says, I schedule calls even with my friends. We are all busy and boundaries are so key. Jen says, yes, me too. I cannot take random calls. I usually don't answer them. No, Jen does not answer the phone. And even sometimes when I call, I'm like, okay, she's not answering my call. She must be busy. And the other thing, Jen doesn't really like the phone. So she likes WhatsApp. So
I love WhatsApp. Let's just go back and forth with the voice.
And I'm like, let's just get it done. But Mike says, yes, Summer, this is why I schedule meetings with myself for myself. Sometimes it's just just to read or relax, but those meetings are important. And like you all, I don't take random unscheduled calls. And Bibiana also says it's so important to single task. Focus and being present is the best gift you can give yourself and others. She also says, I've recently started a new morning routine and was worried it would take away from my projects, but it's actually accelerating my productivity. And you tapped into something that I'm going to get into after I turn this over to Jen, but something called micro learning. And Jen?
I love what you guys all said, but I really, really, really love what you said, Viviana, about recently starting a new morning routine. Congratulations, by the way. I love that you mentioned that it doesn't take away it. You would think that it would take away, but it actually is accelerating. And this is huge, guys. This is so huge. And I'm so glad you shared this, Bibiana, because we, if this is something you aren't doing, or you're a little worried about like, oh my gosh, but I have to do this and I'm not going to have time, I won't finish it. It's like a weird counter intuitive thing, because we feel like we're going to fall behind. But if you're so tired and running a raggedy and everything and ragged, however you say it, you're actually being slowed down when you could just stop and pause and refresh. Like, she's a perfect example of like, she feels like her productivity is accelerating. It's because you're taking that time to breathe and rest and reset. And then you can go at 100% the next day instead of constantly going at 50%. You're just going slower. I mean, how many times have you been so tired that you're just like staring at the computer and you're reading the same sentence for the 5th time because you're so tired, or you're doing this. And when we don't get enough sleep, our IQ level drops. I remember reading this when I was studying NLP, and I remember just seeing all these different interesting things about how badly lack of sleep and rest affects our productivity. Or I like how people say productivity. And so it's amazing. So I love that you shared this, because it actually helps you go faster. It helps you go further in whatever it is that you're trying to do, rather than us thinking, I don't have time to slow down, I can't stop. So if you're saying those words and you hear that you're saying those phrases, I want you to stop and think about our star student, Bibiana.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And here's a good tip from Bibiana. She says, I asked ChatGPT to help design a routine for what I want to accomplish every morning. And here, I love it. Okay, so this is a great segue into what I was going to mention, microlearning. So this is something where we've talked about it. This is just different language, but it's really breaking down things into bite-sized lessons. It's breaking things down into just short forms. So rather than taking it all on and feeling overwhelmed, or feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so much, I've got to get it done all right now. What are those bite-sized pieces? How can you break that down? That's something yet you could also put into Chat GPT and say, I've got this task, break it down for me. How can I do A, B, or C? And what would be the priority here, right? Like, you could do things like that. Utilize your resources.
Right.
And there are a ton of resources. Use apps, look at platforms, sit down and look at platforms that offer micro courses on micro courses on little things, tutorials. That's what YouTube is great for, right? Because these are micro courses. These could be short courses that, oh, I've got time for that. And guess what? There's this little, what is that called? A little dial where you can actually speed up how quickly you hear that video too. Jen taught me that on WhatsApp.
Oh my God. It drives me nuts when somebody's video is embedded on their site and I can't speed it up. I'm like losing my mind because I have to listen to at 1.75 or 2.
Oh, I listened to our messages at 2. And
yeah,
it was funny because somebody heard that the other day and she goes, how can you do that? I go, have you tried to listen to it at normal speed? And she's like, well, that's normal. And I'm like, but it isn't for my brain anymore.
Yeah, it's too slow. I'm just like, hurry up. Hurry up.
Jen and I are like,
I'm looking for that 2x button because some windows don't have that. And I'm just like,
I know. Then you know what I do, Jen? I'm like, click. I can't do it anymore.
Oh yeah, I get it about 15 seconds and I'm done. Like goodness, I'm done.
So those short bursts, look at those bigger tasks and really break them out into short bursts or short size lessons. Look at the lesson, the micro learning, break it down. You don't have to do everything today or everything all at once. As a matter of fact, when you do break things down, it becomes more manageable and it becomes more understandable, right? And so you're able to kind of relax, readjust, and look at them like, okay, here's the priority. I'm going to do this right now. Then I'm going to take my lunch break and have a breather, and then I can do these next 3 things and blah, blah, blah. So break them down. Then be intentional. Be intentional about what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. And part of that intentionality is disconnecting. Be intentional about disconnecting. Just like Jen said, there are times where, and I know she does this, there are times when she goes to family things and she's like, it's going to be 30 minutes.
And I'm texting her going,
text me like, I'm out.
I'm done eating. I'm going now.
Yes. And she means it. She means business, man. And she's like, I love my family, but I'm here. I am showing up. I have a schedule and I'm giving them time, and she's present while she's there. And yet she also knows her boundaries with that. And so, and that's okay. So I want to read something Bibiana said. She's like, at Emotional Success Coach, thank you. I was able to give it my criteria, and it gave me 5-hour menu to follow, including breaks. And that's what she's talking about, how she broke things down in her schedule and so forth. So there are ways of really making this happen for yourself where you're alleviating and managing, well, what's this word? You're managing your time so much better, where it feels better. You feel like you can reclaim your time, your energy, your spirit, right? And being intentional about why you're doing it. Are you doing it because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or you're doing it because you're trying to, because this is the conditioning? Break it down, tap into that, understand yourself. Stop doing it because you don't know why.
Yeah, that's not a good space to be in, especially when you don't know why, because that's there's no intentionality behind it. From what space are you operating from? Yes. So I love that you mentioned that. I wanted to piggyback on something, this whole thing with ChatGPT that yes. Gave me so many ideas, Viviana. One thing that you guys can try is upload an image of like your calendar, like do a screenshot. Like I feed it images because it can read it. And it can read the calendar and it'll see where you have open spaces. And just try this. Say like, okay, I have this project. I want to work on this 5 hours a week or 1 hour a day or whatever. Here's my calendar. The white spaces are open spaces. Can you create a schedule for me and give me suggestions of where I could do this most efficiently? It could read an image and you never know what it could spit back at you. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I even tried this the other week. I uploaded like credit card statements.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I uploaded credit card statements and then I said, this is the current balance. I said, give me a plan. And I wanted to see if it could do it. I said, give me the most efficient plan. Tell me the breakdown, which one should get paid first. Because we hear about the avalanche and the snowball debt accelerator program, or like the way to pay it off. But I don't want to think about all that. Right. And so I was like, let me just see if this could do it. So I just had the numbers and stuff. And it was able to tell me, and I also even threw in, I also have X amount extra to throw in every month. And then it literally told me what to send to what. And it told me when it was going to be done. And I was like, oh my God, if I had this when I was a financial advisor.
Yes, right.
It was so cool because now I don't have to do the spreadsheet. Now I don't have to, it just literally said, pay this much. Now start putting it towards credit card number 2. And then then it'll go like, I'm making this up now. By February 2025, everything will be done. It'll literally tell you the whole breakdown. And so I was like, okay, because it can read the images or the PDF or whatever the heck. So Yeah, it's just, the more you're good about feeding it the information, and you tell it your parameters or what you're trying to accomplish, the more that it can customize it to what you're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. That is such a great tip. There's so many great tips here, and I want to give one more, and I want to talk about this guilt thing really quickly because I know we're at
Mm,
our 30 minutes, but it's it's so important, and it kind of looms over you when you've been conditioned to believe something, right? This guilt or this pang or like this heaviness. And I remember, as a military spouse and moving to Okinawa, Japan, and I was there for 3 years. I was away from my networks, my systems, and we're in the United States. It's a bigger place. I was on this little island called Okinawa, and you kind of run with the same crowd. And so one of the officers' wives took my calendar. She's like, I need you to do this, 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 and this, and this. And she took it out of my hand. And I was like, what just happened? What just happened? Oh my gosh, is this no longer my calendar? And I was just like, I guess not. And so for like a couple of years, I felt very overwhelmed because I was like, why
mhm.
is this not my calendar? And finally one day I was just like, wait, uh-uh, this is not happening anymore. I'm reclaiming this. This is my time, my energy, my life, and I need to be intentional about the time that I was giving away. How I was spending this time. And it wasn't that these people weren't important. It was, there were so many variables that I thought came along with that. Oh my gosh, it's a small island. We're running the same crowd. They're going to get mad at me. They're going to think I'm ignoring them. And some of them did. And I thought, well, that's okay because I need my time.
Right.
I need my time and I'm going to claim my time. And sometimes that's what it takes. It means that you cannot feel guilt about taking and reclaiming your time. It's okay. It's for your health. Even when it comes to children, you know, scheduling time, being okay with, I don't know if I can be at that particular event as much as you want to, because you have other responsibilities as well. So being able to juggle that. And or if your children say, well, mom, you should be able to do all this, or you should be able to take me here. You know what my mom did? She said, here's a bus pass. Find your way to your event. Get a schedule. Right? So what are you laughing about?
No, your mom saying, take a bus.
She did. She did. You know what? Let me give you an example. So my mom gave me a monthly bus pass for the bus, right? And she said, you've got to ride anywhere you want to go. Here's your bus pass. And she said, one day I came to her and it was raining. And I said, Mom, I need to go to the bookstore because I need this book. Because she goes, well, how long have you known about this assignment? I was like, well, maybe for a week. And she's like, and you mean in that week you couldn't have gotten to the bookstore sooner? And I was like, and what I really needed, and I'm dating myself here, I needed the cliff notes for this book.
Right.
And I was like, damn it. Oh my God. She's like, no. And it was raining. And she goes, no, take the bus. There was no cover where the bus stop seat was. And I was just like, okay. She meant business. She didn't back down. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I got to do. And guess what? That told me to plan differently. That taught me how to be better at what I was doing. Right. And so she didn't back down. She set her own boundaries because she also claimed her time.
Right. And I
And
think that's a great lesson. That's a great story. Because like there's times when CJ's forgotten something. I'm like, no, I'm not bringing it to you. Stop. I'm not bringing it to you. I don't care that the school's across the street. I'm not doing it. You're gonna
yeah,
have to deal with it tomorrow. And
right. So
it's like we have to let that experience happen in order for them to understand consequences. Or even us, as adults, are like, okay, I this is how I can do better next time.
right. Exactly. And trust me, it taught me some lessons, right? But it also taught me like, okay, that's maybe how I need to set certain boundaries, and or maybe that's how I need to do things a little bit differently when when I plan out my schoolwork or my work or and so I think that was a good model. Was it always easy? No, to learn those lessons because you didn't want to hear no, or you don't. But again, those people who are saying no are trying to reclaim their time too.
Right.
and trying to set their schedules. So with all that said, there's so much we can talk, so much more regarding, role transitional rituals, prioritizing and delegating, using our resources. There's just so much here, and we can have a second episode on this. But thank you so much, everybody, for participating. And Bibiana says, I want to read these last comments. I will build the app, said Bibiana. Mike said, Ken, folding laundry isn't that why we have children? And there was some conversation going on here. Then Bibiana says, we are no good to anyone when we are burnt. Agreed. We must be willing to say no, even if it feels icky. And old school moms are the best. Yeah, she was pretty awesome. And I knew what to give her to get my freedom too, right? So I was able to balance that out and work with her. And then Bibiana says, the only way anyone learns to be responsible is by taking it on. Definitely not easy, but it's so important. It absolutely is. Jen, what's your nugget for the day?
I like this thing with the guilt. So one thing I'll encourage you is that if you are feeling guilt, allow yourself to experience one moment where you say yes to yourself so that you can at least experience, oh, this is how it feels when I take back my time, when I set a boundary. It feels good. It may not totally feel good in the beginning, but you'll see that there are benefits to like, oh, wow, I actually did like enjoying this time to myself. Like I actually got to read the book, or I actually finally got to work on this project that I've been wanting to for a long time and I kept putting it off. And then it will start to feel good. And then just sit in that feeling, in that emotion of like, you know what? I like how this feels. I'm doing this for myself. And that will counteract the guilt, because it's like, you see in some of these comments, we're talking about you can't be 100%. You can't be present if you're constantly, giving out your energy everywhere else. And it's like, you're not giving it to yourself. And so feel that reward of like, I don't even know if you want to call it a dopamine hit. In a small way, it could be, but experience the feeling of like, this feels good to take back my time, to say yes to myself. And then you will learn to be like, you know what? I don't need to feel guilty. I can choose feeling good about this decision rather than choosing feeling guilt. And the last thing I'll say about the guilt thing, it's, if you look at like a vibrational frequency chart, the guilt and shame and all that is way low. So if you like negative reinforcement, just think about this. You're operating down here instead of up here. And the more you stay down here, the more you will attract more of being that. So
yes, absolutely. Jen, is there a way that you can get a link to the vibrational frequency chart and put it into the LinkedIn StreamYard feed? Because
yeah,
if you can, that would be amazing, because that would be maybe one resource tool to look at and say, oh gosh, where is my vibrational frequency right now? Like,
yeah.
what am I functioning at? Because even I would like to look at that just to see like, wait, how can that be used as a tool to keep myself accountable? Right. And so, or hold myself accountable for what I'm choosing to do. And remember, it's a choice.
Right.
We always have choices. So my nugget today is going to kind of piggyback on this whole guilt thing as well. And to help with that, I would say, to help reduce this guilt and to really nurture yourself and your spirit and make sure that you may be creating that balance in your life, is get a very objective accountability buddy. Check in with these people. Say, you know what? Let's have a chat. Can we be accountability buddies, in regards to our, how we are managing our time, how we are micro learning, how we are letting go of guilt. And if it's not an accountability buddy because you seem to have, there's too much attached to it, and, you're getting it from all sides in regards to, you're not doing this, or why aren't you finding time to do this, or why aren't you taking me to, and people are coming at you, or why aren't you going to this family event? Get a coach, get a counselor, and I mean it, because it can become, it can make you sick.
Mm-hmm.
It can make your body and mind sick if you choose to let it. But there's ways that you can help support yourself during, or even if you're spiritual or religious, go and find a pastor, somebody who can serve as an accountability buddy to help understand where you're at, how you're functioning, and where you want to be to make sure that you're healthier. You're working towards better health and wellness. And so that accountability buddy should really have some objectivity too. So, with that said, any last parting words, Jen?
Oh, let's see. I'll say, join us next Tuesday. It's our 4th year anniversary.
Yes, 4 years. We've been through some rebranding during that time. You may see some to come as well. But with that said, 4 years. Join us. Please pass it on. We love for folks to be here with us. We so appreciate you being here. If somebody, wants to watch the replay, this will be on Instagram or also on LinkedIn. So, make sure that you guide them to these pages as well. So Bibiana says, great chat, everyone. 4 years. Congrats, ladies. Thank you. Amazing.
Thank you for being a part of it. You guys make it all so special.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bibiana. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for joining us. And if you didn't catch all of this, you can catch the replay on LinkedIn or on Instagram. All right, everyone, take care. And we're going to dance this out. You ready, Jen?
Let's go.
Woo! Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
4 years. 4 years. See you next week. See you next week. All right.